All right, it's 10 o'clock. We can get started. So this is the extension of our eSLA training, what we're calling the eSLA huddles. And the meeting is being recorded. We're using Microsoft Teams for the recording of the meeting. Once the recording has been completed, I am uploading those particular recordings to the YouTube site. I did send out the YouTube link to all of the contractors, third-party electrical inspectors for the training. So all of the previous recordings are uploaded to YouTube, as well as all of the future recordings will be uploaded to that same YouTube site. So you should be able to see any of the recordings from the past, as well as today's recording and any future by clicking on that site. So I don't have any other announcements, so I guess I will open up the floor to any questions or concerns that you guys might have with your eSLA testing.
Good morning, Mike. Can you hear me all right? This is Ron Janikowski.
Yep, I can hear you, Ron.
If I could go first, because I have another meeting, so I might have to sneak away. But okay, let's go to if we pick out any ongoing project and go into one of the inspections.
Okay. Should I pick one that you've
pick
done?
One and go into whatever.
Yeah, I guess I'll just do. Looks like this one here. Yep. Okay. All right.
Okay. Let's go into and I want to edit an inspection.
Right. So in here, in this case, this particular review, since it's a current DIS number, it hasn't been approved yet. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you should go pick one that's approved that I have to have a permit.
All right. All right. Looks like this one is. All right.
Okay. And we want to hover over our permits and pick one of them. And when the next page comes up.
Yeah. So I'm on the permit record.
Yeah.
So let me. Yeah. So I picked one that's already approved. It's currently active, and there's ongoing inspections.
And hover over the inspections. And pick one of them to edit.
Okay. So you have one here that's pending.
Yeah.
Final. Yeah, that's pending. You have an ongoing that was scheduled, and you got one that's in violation. Any one of them?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll pick the ongoing. All right.
Okay. Now, if you notice, let's see here, that down below it says electrical service for inspection type.
You mean the checklist type?
That checklist type?
Yep.
Okay. If I go up, I can't change that. Okay.
No,
and it doesn't change automatically when I go up under, if you get out of that one and you go under
type.
Type.
Yep.
Okay. And if I can change the type.
Yep. And
I can go to a final.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. These are the only three types you should be using. The only caveat is, which I believe the instructions, it's been a while since I looked at them, but we do use, you can use special for affidavits. We're using that for affidavits, but that's going to be coming up here. It's going to expire here relatively soon. So the only three that we want you guys using are final, initial, and ongoing is what we'd like for you guys to use. Final, okay?
Yeah, hit final. Okay, and say okay, and you notice that did not change to get the checklist. That did not change.
Yeah, this is you can sort of ignore this. This should be auto defaulted. Yes, it's auto defaulted. So I don't want you to get hung up on that it's a service. This is a internal checklist type for programming. They changed it to, they worded it electrical service. So from an IT perspective, their terminology for electrical service is not what you guys think is electrical service for inspections. So don't get hung up on that. Really, for all intents and purposes, you can pretty much ignore this.
So we will not be able to access those checklists. I noticed that the one did come down. There was like 32 of them for a service.
Yeah, you can do that for, there is a checklist, and I know I unfortunately don't have one of my inspectors with me today. There is a checklist. It's not perfect by any means.
Well, I would think there'd be one for each, one for rough-in, one for final, and one for service.
Yeah, we tried doing that years ago, unfortunately, or about a year ago. Unfortunately, it just got so muddy and messy. We started pulling the NFPA 70 checklist that they had out there for all sorts of different installations, whether it's a hospital versus a farm versus just all sorts of different kinds. And we tried uploading all of that, and it just got to be, it didn't work. It didn't work as the way we wanted it to. So there is I think it's under, yeah, permit standard paragraphs. What we tried to do is incorporate in the functionality for creating these permit standard paragraphs in checklists. So if you had a farm, you would have a checklist that was derived from NFPA 70, their checklist. Or if you had a hospital, and it would automatically pre-fill those checklists in a standardized paragraph, so that what you guys could do as inspectors is that, let's say, for example, this one was a farm, and the system would automatically upload a checklist from NFPA 70 for a farm, and it would have all the standardized paragraphs within NEC, the 2017 NEC. And as you guys as inspectors could just go through it would have like a box, would have a dialog box that would come up, and you can just click any paragraph you wanted to add to your particular inspection checklist. Unfortunately, that functionality just doesn't work. It didn't work perfectly the way that we wanted to or intended it to, so we ignored it. So to skip all of, or to highlight, to summarize what I'm about to say, is that we just created this standardized checklist within the back office. Now, you guys won't be able to see it per se, but it's in the programming of it. Now, for future iterations of the eSLA system, we do intend to utilize this, but at this point in time, it's not functioning.
Okay, yeah, that was kind of hanging me up. We'll probably, John and I have our own checklist based on, NFPA 70 and the NEC. And we'll probably, where we'll get all our code sections and everything for violations and stuff. But that was the area I kind of got hung up on, and I was trying to see how I could utilize what your checklists were. So you did answer my question. Let's see. I think that was the only one I had for now. So thank you.
Okay. I'll cancel this because I'm not sure if John or Ron, one of you two, are working on this one. I won't save this one so that you could still do whatever testing you were doing in that one. Okay. Any other questions?
Mike, this is John. I don't necessarily have a question on using the interface, but more of a overall question on the process. So I don't know if you want to see if anybody else has anything on the interface, and then maybe we can just highlight some of the differences for discussion between maybe state inspectors versus third party that I think we should probably just run through.
Okay. We'll table that. So I guess anybody have any other questions about inspecting, creating permits, dashboard? All right, hearing none. I guess, John, the floor is yours.
Okay, so I guess just from an overview from our perspective, if somebody is applying or an applicant's applying for a permit in a county that the state provides the inspection service for, when they go through the application process, at some point they get to basically a breakdown of their fees. So is it somewhat fair to characterize that as the point where most people would then pay for those fees at that point?
Yeah, well, there's a couple things at play there. For one, the system, we're still working on it right now. Let me open up one here real quick, one that's approved. One of the issues we're running into that I'm still working with our third-party vendor Deloitte on is the fees are being displayed on the permit. These fees should not be on here. These fees at all shouldn't be on for third-party inspectors. In addition to that, this table, the fee rates are being itemized in the application process as well. And I'm working with our IT folks to remove this for third-party inspectors. Now, to answer your, go on.
Yeah, if I could stop you there. So I was going to get to the third party, but just so I understand, you know, the state's process in this, if we're not talking about third party inspectors, we're just talking about the state who's receiving the application. Would the applicant going through the process of applying for the permit typically pay that fee during that process, which would then, let's just say it's Craig Mulder's area.
Yep.
When he first gets notified that that permit is out there for review, that permit typically is probably paid for at that point when he sees it, correct?
Correct. And I will run through an example of that. Let's see here. Nobody's in Crawford County, so I'll do Crawford. I'll do Prairie du Chien, or I'll do Prairie du Chien. Actually, I don't know why this is slow. And I'll hit save and continue. I don't know why it's kind of slow. Bear with me. I'll just run through an application and show you what happens with the fees. Is it I? Yeah, she, right? Yeah. All right, so we're going to do Crawford County because I don't have a third-party inspector contract for Crawford County. So I'll let the system create application for a department jurisdiction area. Let's say new, let's say farm, it's garage. Well, and we'll say yes. We'll just do a 200 amp service. We'll do a feeder to 1 branch circuit. Keep those all 0. Oh. Just doing this to get through the system. So You see, this summary needs to be removed too on third-party inspectors, which I'm working with our IT staff on, because you guys won't have these shown for your applicants. So I'm trying to get that removed. I'm hoping to get that removed before the effective date of March 1st. That's my goal. Let's see here. All right. So in this example, the applicant submitted a permit for Crawford County. And because we don't have a third-party inspector assigned to Crawford County, it automatically gets defaulted to us as the department because the city of Prairie du Chien is not a delegated municipality. So therefore, the programming logic in here, it automatically is set so that it recognizes that the third-party inspector is not assigned to this county and it's not a delegated municipality. Therefore, it automatically goes to the department, meaning Craig Mulder or Tony Tedesek or Steve Rasmussen. When that happens, the application, and I'll go back to the dashboard here real quick and show you what it looks like. The dashboard shows that the applicant has a permit for a test garage, what I just created, but now it's in a status of generate fee. You guys, any applicant you have for your customers won't have this status. It will not have a status of generated fee. It'll automatically go to a status of submitted. Now, in the department's process, or projects in which the department is actually doing the permit and the inspections, the Craig, Tony, and Steves of the world, their applications will show a generate fee status. Therefore, the customer has to pay the fees. And the way they can do that, there's a couple options. They can make a payment and submit here, or they can go right up to their cart and pay for the fee. And by clicking on the cart, they just select permit, they hit continue. They can try and find that particular permit. In this case here, it looks like this is the one I created. So I'm going to select all, hit continue, hit continue. And what the system does is it automatically takes us over to our US Bank portal where all the payments go directly to US Bank. So the customer is taken to this particular site where they fill in all the information. This is a dummy site, so it doesn't matter what I'm going to be doing here. They enter in all their credit card information, they enter in all of the information that they're going to use to pay for the actual permit. Now they have a couple options. They can use a ATM card, or they can use a checking your savings, which is like an ACH payment, or they can use a credit card and debit card. Once they pay for all of this, and I'll go through it really quick because I know this is something you guys are not going to see, but I just wanted to show you, John, the process that happens. So now I go back to that permit and I'll hit refresh. It may take a second. Go back, it should show up now. Okay, so now once the customer has paid for this particular permit, it now changes status from generate fee to submitted. Now if I go and look at that particular project in the back office, so if I'm acting like, well, I know in this case it's going to be assigned to Tony Tadasek. Tony Tadasek has Crawford County, and it's automatically assigned to him. In this case, the customer did pay for the fees using the US Bank portal. So they paid for this permit.
Okay, so if we stick with Tony and the state side and we take it one step further, let's say that at this point, Tony reviews the application and he realizes that the branch circuits and the feeders aren't matching the ampacity of the service that was paid for. He contacts the customer and they realize, yeah, we submitted on a 400 amp, it's actually a 1200 amp service. I guess what's the reconciliation that you guys go through on that to kind of change the fees or the permit itself that was applied for?
Sure, there's a couple different scenarios, and there are so many different scenarios, and I think Craig brought this up at the second, the pre-prod training. Really, it's up to you guys. It depends on, it just depends on the complexity of it. So for example, let's say, let's not be, let's just do an example of, you get on site and you notice that, hey, they have a 30 amp breaker here. They didn't pay for a 30 amp breaker, right? It's up to you guys and how you want to treat that. Do you guys want them to, you can delete the permit, right? And then refund the fees back to the customer and tell them they got to issue a new permit. Or you can go in there and change the actual permit itself and charge them your additional fee for, you know, inspecting a branch circuit. That's a minor example. Another example would be, let's say, for example, their entire permit is messed up. They don't have any, they got the wrong service size. They put farm and it should have been a public building. They have a whole mess of feeders that they didn't put in their permit. They, you know, all these other things. Well, instead of you guys fighting with trying to change the permit, maybe those examples, you could tell the customer they got to resubmit. You got to deny the permit and have them resubmit. So there are a multitude of different avenues you could do. From our perspective, we treat it the same way. We use the same type of procedure. Tony, Craig, and Steve, they do the same thing. So if they go out to the site and they see that something's missing from the permit, they usually just add it to the permit and charge the appropriate fees. Now, in this particular example, our inspectors can add, they can add a fee to the cart of the customer. Let's say, for example, let me just click on this and show you what they do. They can add an additional fee. I take that back. I apologize. They add a new fee is what they do. So they can add a new fee. Let's say, for example, it's a they can add a permit application fee. And what they could do is say, well, they were missing they had an additional feeder, which was $40. They can add that fee, and then they can describe in the fee, customer has 2 feeders. Permit only indicates 1. Something like that. And then, of course, they can save this and then add it, and then it'll automatically be added to the customer's cart. Now, that's what happens in the back office on our side. You guys won't see any of this, but then they can submit it for approval. It goes to me, then I approve it, and then they can add it to the person's cart.
Okay.
Now,
I think that.
Go on.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's our internal procedure that we do. Now, if you guys want to do it on your end too, I don't know how you guys are going to charge the individual appropriate fees. You know, I don't know if you're using some bank portal or how you guys are charging the customer, or if you're just asking for an additional check, or if you're doing a credit card payment, or how you guys are doing it. But just as long as you're documenting it within the record. So for example, in this one here that you did for Langlade County, let's say during this process, you go on site, you notice that, hey, they don't have a 200 amp service, they have a 600 amp service, using that as a gross example. You can then decide whether or not you want them to cancel the permit, create a brand new one, or you want to change the permit and make sure you're noting it and documenting in this record that, hey, it went to the site, they have a 600 amp service, not a 200. And so then you decide how you want to handle the fees appropriately with charging the customer.
Okay. I think overall, as long as you can modify the original permit, just so that you don't have, I guess, 2 permit cards, one showing like a 400 and one showing an 800. So if you can modify the permit for them and and update that, I think that answers that portion of it for me.
Yeah, and one thing you can do too is this I've never done, and maybe this is something you could test. It looks like Edda's on. I believe what you can do is you can delete the permit card, and then I believe you can, correct me if I'm wrong, Edda, I believe you can change the questions here. Let me just see if you can do that here. I believe you can. Yeah, I think you can edit. Let's just edit this real quick and see. Work. Let's see. All right, so that saves it. So let's just see. I haven't played around with this feature yet, but I believe then you can print the permit. I believe it'll run through a batch. Yeah, I haven't played around with that. I believe you can print a new card. Is that correct, Edda? I think you could create a new one, can't you?
I'm not sure, because I know it would affect the fees for us. So I don't know if that feature, can you go back over notes and attachments? Because I thought you deleted one and now there's 3.
No, I didn't delete it.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder why. I wonder in this example, Ron gone, Ron left. I wonder how Ron created 3 cards though. It doesn't make sense. I've never seen that happen before.
Yeah, unless he pressed the print permit button.
I don't know why this is failing. It should work. It's supposed to work. Let's go down here. No, that's not it. I don't know why there's 3 permit cards in here that Ron created. I've never seen that happen before. But I do know that Steve Rasmussen has done it before where he changed a question from a customer and then he reissued a new permit. I'll have to try and find that out from Steve and how he did that. And then I'll have to probably present what I found during tomorrow's training.
Yeah, it's probably more complicated on your end if it's tied to fees that are already paid for a third-party inspector who's invoicing separately. That permit card's probably fluid throughout the process, more or less, I would assume. So
Yeah, it is.
Also,
Okay.
if you're inactive, maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. I think you have to. I wonder if this has to be changed back to submitted.
Or if you've already done an inspection. Maybe you can't change it after you've already started inspecting it.
Yeah, I agree, but then it doesn't make sense why there's 3 permit cards here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to dig into that. We're gonna have to dig into that, John. I've never ran into that where there's 3 cards, and why the system is generating 3 cards. It shouldn't be. But I do know that we have added fees. To answer your question, go back to your question. We have added fees to a customer's cart because they're missing something on their permit. We've done that if it's a minor. But if it's a major endeavor, we take the approach the customer has to cancel, withdraw the permit and create a new one.
Okay. And then maybe if we just go back to the start again, but look at this from the third-party inspector's viewpoint, the applicant will supply or request the permit to be reviewed. For the RFB, it looks like once we're notified that the applicant has submitted a permit, we have up to 2 days to respond to that applicant. And then up to 10 days to actually approve that permit application, with the caveat that within that 10 days, that permit has been paid for and kind of outlined in section 3.7 and 3.9 of the RFB. I don't know if you were going to pull that up, but I guess that process kind of leaves an unknown gap, so to speak, where it's not really documented what's going on, and that application can probably, at least it'll appear to on face value, just could sit for 10 days without acknowledgement. Other than
won't the system automatically send an automatic email once the applicant has submitted from DSPS saying thank you for the submittal? Wait 7 to 10 days for processing. Won't that be an automatic process, just like we're seeing in this pre-production program?
Yes, that's correct. So they will be acknowledged that they did submit the permit.
Correct. But there could be up to 10 days where, you know, it's not approved pending permit from the app or pending payment from the applicant, correct?
Right. And so there is a provision in the RFB, though. I'm trying to find it here while we're talking. Yeah. The contractor shall not approve or deny the permit unless the fee is paid in full by the permit applicant. So you have...
Right, the fee is part of the process, so if they haven't paid it, then they haven't completed the process.
Right, correct. Yep.
Right. So are they going to have some place that requirement is outlined? You know, if we're pointing to the fact that we have 10 days, we're not obviously going to hand them the RFB to look at. Is that provision somewhere out there that we can point to that kind of sets that requirement so they're aware of it? I just can see some confusion over that, especially with people who haven't even gone through this process yet. If now they're feeling, you know, maybe they've missed payment or we haven't responded in the time frame that they wanted. How are they aware of the provisions that we're working with then, I guess?
Well, isn't the 7 to 10 days the requirement for us to review the application, make sure the questions are answered, make sure payments have been submitted, and reply back to the customer within that period of time if they haven't, you know, followed through with all of the required items in the application? Isn't that correct?
Correct. Yep. Yeah, but I think and correct me if I'm wrong, John, it's just the customer is not aware of that provision.
But in the email that gets sent, though, they're told that it's 7 to 10 days for responding back to, correct? In the initial automatic email that the customer is going to get. Yeah, the auto email says 7 to 10 days, which means we have 7 to 10 days to review and get back to the customer if payment hasn't been made or questions haven't been answered. So it's in the initial email that gets sent after the application is submitted that they get notified of the 7 to 10 days.
Correct. John, does that answer your concern?
I guess I'll have to review that email. I didn't know if it was specific to, you know, payment must be made within the 10 days.
Yeah, why don't you
approve the permit? So.
Oh yeah, why don't you take a look at that email and then send me your concerns, because then I can work with our IT staff to see if we can modify that a little bit, at least for the emails that get sent out to the permit applicant in which the permit is within a third-party electrical inspection agency area.
Mike, I did have a question about our email address at the wisconsin.gov. Are we supposed to be reviewing that email address, and where would we find that?
Oh, your state of Wisconsin email address?
Yes, because I think that's in the initial, when we send the email out, it shows my, Daniel.Kegley at wisconsin.gov at the top of that initial application email. So people may respond to that. So I'm assuming that I'll have to check that email periodically to make sure customers that aren't directly responding to it.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I apologize. I probably should have, I didn't even think about that. Thank you. Good question. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Office 365. I assumed you guys were, but you probably aren't. So in the Office 360, shoot, let me close us out. Let me sign out, show you guys how to do this. All right, so Office 365, you guys have access to it using your email address. And you can, once you come to the Office 365 website, you can sign in. And what you do is you get this SSO login page. So you can put in your email address or your, I think it's your email address. And then you put in your IAM password. And what it'll allow you to do, you can choose whether you want to stay logged in or not. I always choose yes. The Office 365 website, if you guys aren't familiar with it, it's a website it's a cloud-based Microsoft product, for all intents and purposes, SharePoint site. It has a whole host of different applications on here that you guys can get access to. One of them is Outlook. So all of the email addresses that get sent to you are you can view in this Office 365 portal. So it's an automatic. It's your email address, your state of Wisconsin email address. So emails are coming here.
Sure, that's all we use is Office 365, so we're very familiar with that here.
Yep. So the only issue you got to run into is that, I've done this before in the past where you may have multiple accounts. You just got to make sure which account you're using. So if you got your individual company account versus the state of Wisconsin account, you just got to make sure which one you're using. That's all.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Can they forward emails from their Wisconsin account to their other account, or do we want them using their Wisconsin account?
Yeah, sure. They can do both. They can use, the email address is set up for them. Their email address is the one that's displayed on the permit. So they can certainly, forward those emails to their other account if they want. But the email address, the state of Wisconsin email address is the one that will be displayed on the permit. We can't change that. That's a security issue. We can't change that email address on the permit. So it has to be a state of Wisconsin email address.
Sure.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I apologize for that. I didn't even think about that. I will have to make a note of that and maybe send an email out to all the contractors about access to Office 365. Let me make a note of this real quick. Okay. All right, going back to this. John, did you have any other questions?
No, I don't have anything else today, Mike.
Okay. I'm going to go back and take a look who else is here. We got somebody calling in, but I'm not sure what number that is. It's a 715 number. I'm not sure who that is, but I guess that individual, or Dan, do you guys have any additional questions?
Nothing at this time. Everything seems to be working well from from my perspective. I'm plugging away through it.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Well, I guess we can end for the day then. If you do have any additional questions, you can certainly send me an email, and then I'll try and address them when I can, or I'll try and address them during tomorrow's presentation. And yeah, I think we can end the call for today. All right, thanks a lot, everybody. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye.